Oh, it's very slow.
Mhm.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Black Talk Platform, where I am your host, Dr. Deborah D. Jenkins, on this fabulous Father's Day. Shout out to all the dads who have made it possible for us all to be here, right? We always prop up moms, and rightfully so, but we would not be here without fathers and dads. And so we hope that all of you are enjoying your day and being celebrated as the dynamic dads that you are. Today's Black Talk platform is a special edition. It is a community edition. Most of you who follow the platform know that we take on national issues that are relevant to the Black community. Well, this is one that is also very relevant to the Black community, and it happens to be in my home community, known to many as the largest cooperative in the entire world. We are in the Northeast section of the United States. Are you all there? I am so sorry, guys. This hasn't happened since I first started back in 2020, but that's okay. We're going to try to keep plugging along. Let me ask my guests to please come back into the studio so I can bring you on. I am so sorry this is happening here. Hi, everybody. Bear with me. Junius and Barbara, you all remember those early days of Black Talk platform when I would freeze up. So now I'm on my phone and I just need my two guests to come back. Okay, let me get them in here. All right. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Leah's added. Great. And now Shayna's added. Can you all hear me? I can't hear you guys.
I
Unmute.
can hear you. Can
Oh,
you hear me?
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
I can hear you as well.
Excellent. So for those of us who are of the church, we know we have an expression about these type of things when it happens. You know the devil's a liar, right? He didn't want this show to go on. But I'm pleased to have you all. I don't know if you all, the audience that is, were able to hear me as I was setting up the show because I was frozen. And I do see someone in the comments having said that they couldn't hear anything. I am so sorry. Let me take a little more time to just reintroduce my guest. I have Leah Graham, who is a former board director who decided to come back again and serve her community. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Very welcome. Absolutely. And then we have right beneath myself and Leah, Miss Shana Montgomery, who I've just heard from so many people. Having heard you at the forums, they were so impressed with you. And you too are a cooperator, a neighbor who has decided to throw your hat in the ring to become a director. Welcome to Black Talk Platform.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being.
You are very welcome. My computer is trying to interfere here. So let me just turn it off so that it won't decide it wants to come back and be a part of our show because we don't want it now. It disappointed us already. So let's sort of jump into it. Audience, can you all tell me if you heard me share a little bit about Co-op City and our annual elections? Did you hear anything? Barbara, can you tell me, Rev, were you able to hear any of that setup that I did before? Because I sort of want everybody to understand why this show is so important to the Co-op City community. Barbara, Rev, are you there? Junius, can you tell me if you could hear me setting up the show? Hey, Sister Mel, see you there too. You couldn't. Okay. Thank you, LD. Heard nothing. Okay. Let me try again. So let me see if I can't navigate. So all three of us are going to stay on screen the whole time. I never use the cell phone. So we're just going to stay here. So here's the thing. We are known across the world as the largest cooperative housing development in the world. It has great distinction. Most presidents have come through here. We are a large national voting bloc. If you want to be elected and have a strong showing in the Bronx, in the downstate New York area, which we are considered not really, we're New York City, period. Downstate is more like Nassau and Suffolk County and Long Island. But if you want to have a strong showing as a candidate, you really need to come through Co-op City. Presidents have been coming since Jimmy Carter, and all of them since him and candidates. So we are very important to not only national elections, but also state and city elections. People know that people in Co-op City vote. As a result, we take our civic responsibility seriously in the local realm of our community because we are governed by a 15-member board of directors who we elect with our one vote to say, you know what, we are a $250 million corporation receiving revenue and paying out bills. We need 15 people who would take on the fiduciary responsibility to ensure that our monies are handled properly. I don't know how many acres, but it's a whole lot of acreage up here. We border the Long Island Sound. It is a beautiful place to live. We are working to middle class or middle income families all up here. So we really care about our community, and we take seriously the opportunity to identify 5 new people every year who will represent us on the board of directors. To be sure, there are incumbents who can say, I want to run again because I don't believe my work is done here, or I want to run again for whatever their individual reasons are. And that's perfectly fine with all of us. But the decision becomes that of those of us who are not running to vote for who we believe will properly represent us. This year, something very strange happened. And it wasn't unlike things that have happened in the past, but I'll tell you what the strange thing was at the end. For the last few years, we've been having a difficult time reaching quorum. Quorum meaning that we have over 15,000 apartments here. Each shareholder, as we are known, each shareholder in good standing is able to participate in the board of directors election every May. But for the last few years, we've been having to extend the voting period because we've not been able to hit quorum. And the quorum is determined by how many apartments are occupied versus those which are vacant. So if we have 15,000 and say 1,000 apartments are vacant, that number is going to change as to how many how many votes we need to make quorum. The more occupied we have, or the fewer vacancies, that number becomes higher because it has to represent the majority of the shareholders. It's a very simple math equation that they come up with every year based on occupancy. So we've been falling short during the first voting period for several years now. And so the board has systematically determined that they would extend the vote through a vote, extend the election period. They did that one time during this current year's election cycle. But then with less than 500 votes to go out of a number of 5,000 or so. And these ladies can tell us because they're in the process. They know exactly the number we needed in order to make quorum. But we were short just less than 500 votes when out of the blue, the majority of the board members decided that they would not extend the vote again for us to get 497, I believe, somewhere around that neighborhood. When it's been done before, that was very shocking to myself as well as to many others, and no doubt to these 2 women who have run. They have spent money. It is not cheap to run a campaign. You have to be out, you have to spend money, you have to spend time getting to know your neighbors. So it's a huge sacrifice. And for those of you who don't know, these are unpaid board positions. And so they've already given so much of their time. At least the process could play out by having another extension to try to get those remaining votes. But that didn't happen. And let me say this at the top of this show so that everyone will be clear as to why I felt that it was important to have these ladies come on and share their positions on what happened. The board, as I said, is comprised of 15 cooperators. They're our neighbors too. We all have 1 vote. Everybody, even when you are a board director. The majority of the 15, 8 decided that they would not extend the election, not again. I might be wrong with this number, but the ladies here can tell me if I'm wrong. Of the 8, I believe 5 of them are currently running against these 2 ladies who are here. If not 5, several of them are currently a part of the majority which decided that they would not extend the election any further. I personally feel like these two candidates have been disenfranchised, as well as all of those within the community who voted. And it doesn't really matter who they voted for, but the reality is by deciding not to extend the vote so that we can get to quorum, everyone who took time to mail in their ballots or to vote online has been disenfranchised, including these two ladies. And that is why they are here today. So, ladies, I've tried to set it up for those who are watching. Can you, Leah, let me start with you. Let us hear from you as to how you feel about all that has happened and where I was wrong, especially with those numbers. Please feel free to correct me. I've tried to give a summary, but you all have more facts and data than I perhaps do.
Yes. So, Dr. Jenkins, thank you so much for having me. And yes, I would be glad to share that information. Dr. Jenkins was very correct in the majority of the information that she did share with everyone. So, again, based on the number of occupied apartments, the quorum that we had to meet was 5,002. Of the 5,002, when the election ended on May 9th, which was the one and only extension that was allowed, we had 94%. We had met the quorum by 94%. So we had a total of 4,703 votes that came in. We were less than 300 votes left to meet quorum. And during the board meeting, where the chair has to present why we should consider extending, which is something that has been a precedent for the last 5 years, the majority board decided not to extend the election. And that did include 5 of the candidates, 5 directors who are current candidates that are running, and which was a little surprising for me that they were even allowed to vote. I believe that it was a conflict of interest. I thought that there should have been some kind of recusal, but that did not happen. So, for me, I was very concerned, particularly because I was a board director before for 6 years. I know just how important these elections can be. We must have an election. It is a requirement. Every year we must run an election, and I feel that as directors, it's our responsibility to engage the community enough that they will want to participate in this process every single year. So I was very concerned because voting in general is a big thing for all of us, right? Voting is a big thing. People died, fought, our ancestors for the right to vote. So I feel any type of election that comes about, we should never have our votes taken away from us. And that's exactly what is going to happen if we don't, if we can't convince the board to rescind that resolution. All 4,703 votes will be discarded.
4,703 people living here in Co-op City decided, I want to be a part of electing our new board of directors for this next year. And 4,703 people have basically been told by the 8-person majority board directors, while 5 of them are currently running against Miss Graham and Miss Montgomery, no, your 4,703 votes will not be counted this year. That's basically what's been being said by that resolution. Before we go forward, I think Kathy said, Kathy, hey, Kathy, I couldn't, because I had to switch to my phone, I couldn't also open up that telephone line. I'm very sorry about that for everyone who wanted to use that. I didn't anticipate my computer acting silly, but I'm glad you're here anyway. It is shameful. How dare them? I'm putting that up there. Kathy says it's shameful. How dare them? Because listen, we work hard, all of us. And those who are retired, they've worked hard all their lives, and they're trying to secure a legacy for their children, their grandchildren, to make sure that what is left behind is something that is functional. And that starts with the board of directors here. And I'm just very sorry, and I thank you for sharing it from your perspective. And even talking about the importance of voting, Leah. And it's not lost on me that we're doing this on Father's Day, as well as I'm saying reparations, but Juneteenth weekend, because that was a whole disenfranchisement, right, of Black people who were enslaved in the United States. They remained enslaved because the information that they should have gotten didn't get to them soon enough in Galveston, Texas. Shana, let me bring you into this conversation. Why don't you share with us also your perspective?
Well, thank you for having me on, Dr. Jenkins. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely.
The suppression of the vote is going on all around the country, and everyone is dealing with so much. And to have a situation like this fall on our laps after, all we're really asking for, we're not asking for any special treatment. What we're asking for is to continue the election until we reach quorum.
Right.
There was no reason why past precedents, spoke to us always having to extend the election and last year was 3 times. And it's been said, oh, well, Co-op City, they just don't vote. There are 10,000 people that is not going to vote. We can't speak for 10,000 people. There are religious groups, there are groups that don't vote in general.
Mm-hmm.
So we never sent out proxies to find that if neighbors can vote. There are various ways that we could have done this. And I always said this, and I said this in the beginning of the campaign, the system is antiquated. It is not that shareholders do not want to vote, but we're not making it easy for them to vote. We're not making it a big deal. We make everything else a big deal. When politicians come here to campaign, we make a bigger deal out of other politicians coming here to campaign than we do our own in-house election.
You're right.
So
You're right.
It's a misjustice, and it's a misuse of funds, because there was also something else that was stated that, it would cost $2,700 to extend the vote. Well, if it was costing $2,700 to extend the vote, that's not our take on it. That's not what we read in the contract. We read that it was already allocated. That money was already there, and it was already pretty much spent for 2 extensions. So the fact that they're saying it's going to cost $2,700, well, what about the money that was already invested in the election by the board, by River Bay, by the shareholders? So we're going to negate all of those funds and say, oh, well, because we don't want to spend an additional $2,700, like they're trying to allude to, and say that to the cooperatives, oh, we don't want to spend an additional $2,700. That's not what it's about, because we already spent Co-op City already spent thousands of dollars for the vote. Why not let the vote continue and see it fully to where you have a winner? And Leah and I said this, whether or not the numbers are in our favor, at least we tried to do something different. But to have it pretty much stolen and just cut off at the knees, and to say, you know what, we're not going further, that's it, it's over. And I don't know if everyone understands what that means. What it means is it was stopped. The election was stopped, and they were saying due to we didn't reach quorum, they didn't give shareholders an opportunity to reach quorum. So that means that the same 5 stays in for an additional year. That means year 5. They have already been in there 4 years, because it's supposed to be 3 years according to our bylaws. They got an extended year because of COVID, and a lot of co-ops did that. They gave the board an extended year, so there's nothing wrong with that. So they served the 4th year. So now with this, they're having an opportunity to give themselves a 5th year, which is in violation of the bylaws anyway. So
Right.
why didn't they ask, if it was going to be, or you felt it would be a burden on shareholders, the $2,700, why didn't you ask the candidates to pick up the cost? Why didn't you take into consideration the amount of money that has already been invested from shareholders into this election, that we're going to lose all of that? So instead of coming up with an additional $2,700 like they're saying, because that is not true, because the money was already put in the budget for an extension.
Wow.
Not just come up with a different type of energy, just saying, oh, you know what, well, we're not going to put this expense on the shareholders. So if the candidates want to, continue on with the election, you guys will pay the funds. So there were
Right.
no options, none whatsoever. It was just, we're stopping the vote. And we also feel, Dr. Jenkins, that there was a direct conflict of interest.
Yes.
These are incumbents. They are running for re-election. Anything that had to do with election should, in a resolution, should not have been at the hands of five incumbents, because it was, according to them, the vote was 8-6. Now, the incumbents always had the majority vote. So the 8-6 gave the other team six, because one member was absent and
Okay.
another member was absent. So they should not have voted. That made it five candidates that were up for re-election that should not have voted on something that had to do with their election, because that's a conflict of interest, direct conflict of interest anyway.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I pinned a comment from one of our viewers on Junius Williams. Incidentally, he and I both used to serve on the board of directors, and I'm not making this light at all. Even if there were another $2,700, he and I both can attest to the fact that during those meetings, which are very long and arduous, I applaud you too for running. Leah, you've been in those boardroom meetings, you know how long they are. It's a lot of work that has to get done. And so we spend the corporation spends that amount in just making sure that the board is fed, because those meetings can start at anywhere from 7 o'clock and go into the wee hours. So they deserve to have a meal because they're not getting paid. But I'm saying $2,700 is not something where we stand on a square about, because of the way money is spent here already. We spend more money to go and support people being honored at events and political events. Come on now. So let's keep it real about that. We're not standing on a square about extending it twice. And whatever happened to the incentivizing that they would do? I didn't see those postings this year. I may have missed it. If you vote, you'll get whatever, the five people, if you vote or something, you'll get $100 or something like that. So they've done these type of things to encourage people to vote in the past. Why not this year? What makes this year different? So I pinned Junius's comment. He said all 8 of those who voted on the board belong to a group called the Coalition to Save Affordable Housing. So they ran the Coalition to Save Affordable Housing. They ran those 5 candidates who you are saying, and people in the comments are saying, and I believe is a conflict of interest. They should have recused themselves from voting, which of course, if you had someone out sick already, this should have been a moot point. This should have never been a resolution brought. But clearly it was already determined before that board meeting that this was going to be their ace in the hole. And it just reeks of impropriety. And I think someone put that down in the comments also. It just reeks of all wrongdoing. um what did she say here, or he say, with them already getting 1 year extended, then consideration surely should be to extend to get a quorum. To you and me, this makes a whole lot of sense, right? If you want people to think well of you as a board of directors, if you want people to continue to be engaged, don't do things that cause you to look as if you're doing something that's under the table, because that's how it feels. It feels really ugly. So can you all tell me, what are your options? What are your options?
Well, one of the things that we're doing is because we realize that this is bigger than Shana and I. This is about this entire community, whether they people vote or not, right? Because some groups just can't, right? They just can't. So we realize that we need, as a community, to really come together as one voice and ask those that have the authority to speak to the board of directors to rescind that resolution and allow this election to move forward. One of the things that I found very interesting, because we did hear from some directors, the ones that voted to stop the election, where they spoke about cost. Nowhere in the resolution that they passed speaks about cost.
Hmm.
None of the whereas, because when a resolution is written, you're explaining what's leading you to that decision. And none of the whereas talks about costs, additional costs, or anything of the such. And what I appreciate is that we do provide the resolutions in the paper. Any shareholder can read them, and you'll see that there is no conversation about this cost that they're now speaking of. It's in poor taste. And so what we started to do is that we put together a petition asking for shareholders to sign the petition. Our plan is to prepare a letter to the Commissioner of HCR, and ask her, based on the facts and circumstances, because we do have the data, that she instructs the board to continue with the election. That is the one body who can tell the board to move this election forward.
How? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
We also reached out to local politicians, and we reached out to Letitia James's office, and she responded. So
Great.
we're getting several people involved, and we want the community to be involved because the community it has more power than the board members. So
Absolutely.
are in charge. So we're reaching, like Leah said, we have a petition, and we're reaching out to the shareholders. And even if you have to call and speak to the board president, Sonia, and let her know all the wrongdoings that shareholders feel, then that's another way. Even marching to, Bartow Avenue and demanding that they be heard. That's another way, to reach out.
Yeah. I don't want people to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Leah.
I'm going to say the other thing that I noticed when reading the election rules is that it says in Section H of the election rules, it talks about challenging the voting results. Mm-hmm. And within that section, it says that a resident or a candidate can challenge the vote results. So they wrote it, it's written where it opens it up, where shareholders have a voice, that any shareholder can call River Bay or call HCR or call your elected officials and say, we want to challenge these voting results, particularly because you will not let us see the results. Mm-hmm. When I spoke with someone that I knew that lived in Riverdale, they shared that whenever their voting date ends, they count whatever they have. They just count what they have and they move forward. When we did raise that at the ballot meeting, where the candidates, most of them were not there. We were told we needed to be there, and we were there, and we were just given a letter telling us we didn't meet quorum. But during that conversation, we inquired about the date versus quorum. Right? Because Shannon and I are very strategic. We are constantly talking about solutions. And so we're offering solutions to the bad news. We're offering solutions. And it was said that HCR requires us to have both quorum and a date. So, but I haven't confirmed that because I'm one of those people that trust but verify. I haven't verified it, but I found it kind of odd that I haven't seen that. I was a board director for 6 years. I have not seen that in writing. So I wasn't certain why the board could not make those kind of decisions.
So, okay. So a couple of things. Thank you, Kathy. And I didn't pin it, but I did post her comment there. But before I go on, I want to go back to the fact that you have put this on the radar of the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. And I think it does rise to the occasion that it needs to be looked at because, as one of the commenters is saying, this reeks of impropriety. And so it seems that the hope would be that you all would just go away. Just go away. And I like the fact that you're saying it's not just for a personal outcome for yourself, Leah, or for yourself, Shana. You are doing this for all of us because if you all just went away, the boards can become more powerful as the years go by. and we will see our home community, which we love to brag about. We love saying that we're from Co-op City. In fact, people love saying that they're from Co-op City so much they love to talk about when they moved in. That's how much pride we take in this place. And I posted a comment somebody had made about, the apathy, what Kathy was saying that, but this has just been going on and on for such a long time. And it's really sad when you think about the respect that we've had for certain members of the board over the years, just working with them in the community, and that they would think that is so important that they remain despite maybe 4,703 people saying, no, it's time for there to be some changes taking place here. They would think that they're so important in their role that they need to stay for a whole nother year. And that's very offensive to all of us. It's offensive to all of us.
Particularly because we've gotten an increase, right? And we're going to have another increase come April of next year, right? This year was 2.1. They didn't tell the community about that, right? It kind of got out, right? The additional 2.6. Yeah, right. So now it's creeping up to 2.6. So with those things and the fact that we now don't have any more garage attendants, we don't have lobby attendants. The number of public safety officers has declined, and all of that has to do with the budget, right? I used to chair the budget committee when I was on the board, so I know what the numbers look like back then. And as a result of all of these things, our quality of life, including our votes, is being changed right now.
You can't just disenfranchise a community. And the facts are, you have to run an election the way it should be run. And you can't just appoint yourself, because that's what it seems like. They're appointing themselves to another year on the board. And everyone knows exactly what's happening, and everyone knows exactly what they're doing. And the disrespect comes from Leah and I ran a clean campaign. We ran a campaign based on the shareholders and the shareholders' needs. This is going to be, like they said, a paid gig. This is, a voluntary position. Right. So the fact that at the last, we abided by the rules where it said we should meet at the last forum so we can get together and discuss whether or not we met quorum, or if we're going to count votes or what we're going to do. I was under the impression that we were all going to be there. When we walk in, I see myself and Leah and two of our supporters. No one is there from the coalition. None of the incumbents are there, which is the number one disrespect. And then our attorney comes in, he comes in, and then two of the coalition members come in. So it's like, Leah and I didn't know the results. So it's obvious that somebody else, that the coalition knew the results as to why they didn't feel the need to come and hear the ending results. Wow. We had no idea when we got there, so they didn't even give us the respect to see this completely through. They just felt, well, we got the information, we know we're staying in for another year, and that's it. I even had one of the board members, one of the incumbents, tell me I didn't need to know her name. I told her, absolutely, I need to know your name. You are a board member and you represent the shareholders. So for you to tell me that I don't need to know your name is ludicrous. It's really shows a sense of self. It shows a sense of selfishness. And is this election about you personally, or is this election about what's best for the shareholders?
Wow, and I'm sure you have more stories that you won't share tonight, because that is just mind blowing. You don't need to know their name. Okay, so let me get to these courses of action. Now, Kathy reminded us that at the Garvey School tomorrow, they're having a Juneteenth event, and she was encouraging you all to bring your petition. So tell me, how are the petitions going? Are you getting signatures? How are you trying to get signatures?
Yeah, so we have two methods. One is that we put a full page ad into the Co-op City Times. Is on page 18. The Co-op City Times, we have the QR code at the bottom of the ad. All you have to do is point your phone to that QR code, and it'll take you right into the petition, and you can sign electronically. I want to just say that Shana and I are extremely technical. We have lots of experience. I have background in contracts, management. Shana's an educator, union representative. She travels to Albany representing teachers unions. We have a lot of experience, and we know that we can help move the needle in this corporation and keep it affordable. We totally know we can. And we are two candidates that we would hit the ground running, particularly because we talk about it all the time. We're not even elected, and we were already strategizing how to engage the community, how to get more people involved, how to bring in more minority contractors, making that process even fair. We constantly are strategizing because
the very QR code that you're using is from our idea.
Yes, our idea, and we started seeing QR codes everywhere now. But we know what's needed. So one of the things is that we have our ad in the paper, and then we created a paper petition. Now, what we decided to do is on that paper petition, we have we laid out exactly why we want this resolution rescinded, so that anyone that's signing the petition or any volunteer who's carrying that petition, they have the same information. We are very transparent. We don't like the fact that the existing board is not as transparent as they could be. I think that they forget that they were elected and that they have a fiduciary responsibility to make decisions based on everyone and not just what will benefit them personally.
Right.
So we have two
I'm sorry, Leah, go ahead. And I'm going to say, because this is Dr. Jenkins' show, I'm not suggesting by any means that people march down to Bartow and start demanding and start, a revolution. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, as a shareholder, get involved. If you want changes and you deserve changes in our community, because this is where we call home. We're right. Just, if you want to speak to board members, you should know their names. You should know what they're doing for you. If you want to speak to the board president, Tony Feliciano, about what you feel just transpired, what I'm saying is, have an opportunity to go to Bartow Avenue and ask to speak to board members who may be there at that time. So by no means on Dr. Jenkins' show am I saying to rush down there and do a Trump situation. No, right. What I'm saying is just to use your voice.
Yes.
Use your voice. The power of your words will go a far way just for the community in general.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. But I do agree that our voices need to be heard. I tell you, you don't know how many times I personally, and I'm sure I don't know how many times either of you or anyone listening personally will call senators, Congress people on the state and the federal level when there's an issue that they're considering before the legislation that I am not in favor of. You know why it matters? They log those calls. They log those visits that people make to the offices, and it makes a difference. One person said, one politician said, if you're one voice and you're the only one saying that thing, I hear it. But when it's 10 voices, I respond. So we really need a groundswell around what you all are trying to do, because I'm very clear just listening to the two of you. Yes, you ran so that you can get elected, but that is not what's primarily in your mind right now. You're really trying to help us as a community, and I appreciate you doing that. So now let me ask you, because we as cooperatives, we need to know also, what is the time frame? When does this vote have to be certified, or their resolution? I'm so perplexed because this has never happened since I've lived here that I can recall anyway. How much time are you working with to get us to sign your petition to get it before Letitia James as the petition signed and the local legislators that you've contacted?
We need it done immediately because July 1st, the election should be certified.
Okay.
We really need to get it started. We started already, so we really need to get the signatures and get as many signatures as possible.
Okay.
Looking at the resolution now, and it does say here that the election committee certification of ballots will be extended until 5 p.m. on Friday, July 1st. and that the swearing in of the newly elected board members be extended until Wednesday, July 13th. Now, let me just say this.
I'm so confused.
Let me just say this, because this corporation is very interesting, and this is why the people have to take back what belongs to them. This corporation belongs to the shareholder. If I was to create an org chart, the top of that org chart would say River Bay Corporation, which is all shareholders.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right below the shareholders, it says board of directors. So we report to you, right? You can get rid of us if you needed to, right? You have that much power, right? And so after that, once you have the board directors, under the board directors, you have the managing agent. So the managing agent reports to the board. We're supposed to evaluate them. We're supposed to make sure that they do everything they're supposed to do. Now, what I find interesting is that I'm reading this, but I'm still looking at July 1st as the end date, because they're just so much inconsistency in information that Shannon and I have continuously seen since the start of this campaign. Consistently, even the contract with Yes Elections is not consistent. And so I have to say July 1st. I don't care what this resolution is saying. I'm saying that we need to get all the petitions back by next Friday or Saturday. We are in the process of drafting a letter to the HCR commissioner. We are going to, I'm kind of thinking about personally going in now that they're on Lexington Avenue. They're no longer, HCR is no longer in the Wall Street area. They're now in Midtown on Lexington Avenue, just an express bus ride away, right?
Okay.
And so I may even hand deliver the petitions, right?
Awesome.
But the plan is for us to have that cover letter. And what we're asking is that resolution be extended. Be rescinded. That resolution be rescinded, and that the election moves forward until quorum is reached, as it has been done the last 5 years. Last year, the election was extended 3 times. There was a precedent set.
Right.
That's where we are at this point. So we're asking everyone to please, the feedback that we did get from Letitia James' office was that her suggestion was that we reach out to our Councilman Riley's office and to our State Senator Bailey's office. That we contact them and let them know how you feel. The same thing that you was just sharing, Dr. Jenkins, about being more than one person calling the same issue. You're pretty much calling to say rescind Resolution 2330. Extend, let this election move to the end. Let it play out. That's all you have to say. This is what I'm calling for. This is what I'm calling for.
And we're not asking for any special favors. We're not asking, as we said in the beginning, even if the vote is not in our favor, we can accept that. What we cannot accept is someone doing something that is immoral and something underhand.
Right. Absolutely.
Giving me the impression of voter suppression. Voter suppression is a big issue for me. And for you to say 44,000 votes that you're just going to toss out, you're going to just discard, is a real big problem for me. Real big problem for me. I think it's a form of disrespect to this community. And I think that the community, this is the time, with everything that's going on with elections and Juneteenth.
Yeah.
And where we're coming from too, that we as a community need to be picking up our phones or writing a letter.
If we don't,
we know that we need their help to make our vote count.
And something like this can continue to happen. What shareholders don't understand is if we allow this to slip by, then what's to stop them from putting resolutions together, and because they have the majority vote, putting another resolution together and saying the same thing next year when there's going to be 10 incumbents? What will say, if they have the power, that they can't do something like this again? So if we don't put a stop to it and we don't try to make the community aware of what's going on within the boardroom, there's nothing that's going to stop them from ultimate power, doing whatever it is they feel they can do. Because this was a misjustice of power. This is a misuse of power.
Yeah.
And
there's a great document that I got from Letitia James' office where she specifically talks about the relationship between board directors and shareholders. I thought that was so powerful.
Really? Okay.
So she understands that there are times when things are not going in the best interest of shareholders. And for her to put together a document that spoke to that, that's how we knew to go to her first.
Her office handles things like this.
Yes, yeah. And they did respond. They said that it was wrong. They did say that we should try to do something about it. And that's why they gave us those two elected officials to go to help us.
And we don't want the state to feel that we can't govern ourselves.
Yes.
Exactly.
What happens, and when the state feels that we can't govern ourselves, especially a predominantly minority neighborhood, then they're going to come and take over. And then people are really not going to like the changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because everything will then be under a microscope. And there's been so much corruption throughout the years here in Co-op City. But this in a lot of ways to me smacks of the highest level of corruption, because it really is telling us we don't care what you think your vote means, because it really doesn't mean that much. And we did not elect any of the 15 to go in there and make decisions that would take our authority to govern them away from us. And that's really, we're their oversight.
That's right.
Even when they become too chummy with DHCR, we are their oversight.
It's okay for us to have a relationship with HCR because they're our governing body.
No, I'm not talking about the relationship. I'm talking about
individuals.
Yes, that is very
right,
true.
the individuals, because we are accountable to DHCR as we are to HUD, but the 15-member board are accountable to us as cooperators, and not just the voting cooperators, everyone who lives up here, because we all have a stake in this community. So can one of you put the link to the petition? I know you can't put the QR code, but we really need to be able to make it easy for people to go and sign this petition. So is anyone able to put the link up here in the chat?
I'll put it up.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing I just wanted to share with those that are joining tonight, first, I want to thank all of you for your interest and support to this issue. This is your community. But one thing that I did want to share is, because nobody wants to tell you about that, and that's where we have a concern about lack of transparency coming out of the boardroom. But you have these 5 incumbents that could end up sitting again for another year, right? Now, if we already have a history of not meeting quorum, what are the chances it's going to happen next year, right? Because now people are not going to want to vote, maybe, right? Because of the way this is playing out. So they're sitting for an additional year. That's 5 of them. And each year you have 5 directors that have to run again. So you have these 5 that are sitting for 1 year. They have to run again next year, plus the next 5. So next year you're going to have 10 board of directors running. Right? You're gonna have 10. Now, what if you don't meet quorum? What are they gonna do? What they're gonna do what they just did this year, right? And then that means that the 3rd year, you're gonna have all 15 running. See, now that really makes the state feel that we are not able to govern ourselves. And this is why it's so important to put a stop to this issue right here, right now, because it can continue and it can harm this community.
And we asked the incumbents why they did not extend the vote. And what we got was a blame game on the shareholders. We got from them, well, they're not going to vote anyway. The 10,000 or so are not going to vote. And we let them know you cannot speak for people. Right. Extend the vote. You never know what's going to happen. But their argument in the paper, if everyone reads the paper, it will say, well, shareholders don't vote. We have to see how we can get them to vote, how we have, we sent out robocalls, we sent out all of these things. But as I said, that's an antiquated system. We do more for every other event. When we do Tunes on Tuesday, we promote every other event in here, to the highest degree.
This is true.
The same thing when it's time to vote. Why not rally everyone and have it like a block party? We had a perfect opportunity when we had the fair outside, where we could have had a table set up and not any incumbents or Leah and I, no one who's running for the board. They could have just had a table with nice balloons, things set up, for questions. Do you have a question about, the election? Did you lose your ballot? Did something happen to your ballot? Why aren't you voting? Can you give us a reason? What do you think we can do better? These are opportunities to use, but there's a reason why. I always say it. There's a reason why you don't want voices to be heard.
Right. No one said anything during the fair. No one got on that stage to remind anyone that there was an election.
Why would you want a voice to be heard? Like Leah said, no one got on the microphone during the fair that said, listen, don't forget to vote, guys. So it should be a big deal when it comes to voting.
And we didn't want to do it. We was so close to the stage. We was ready to say, could you give us that mic? But we said no. We'll just continue to walk around the Greenway and just engage the community as we always have. But
it's not a privilege.
That they didn't.
It's a right.
Exactly, it's a right. It is definitely a right. Let me go back to a comment Miss Jacqueline Sheffrey put up here, because this is critically important. If you're putting out there, in this call to action Friday or Saturday, so you probably want to be very, very direct in saying it's either Friday or Saturday. Let us know that. But Miss Cherry says she just found out about this yesterday from Kathy Blount. What efforts are being made to alert the community at large about this issue? Because unfortunately, and I have the highest respect for Ms. Boone, the editor of our local newspaper, but she literally works for the corporation and can't do more than put your full page ad, right? She can't give voice, or unless people wrote in to the editor, and then still there will be choices made by people on the majority board as to which of those letters would make it in, expressing any outrage. So we have 33 buildings, and we have all the townhouse areas. Do you have people stationed outside these 33 buildings to help get you these signatures?
We need help. We don't. We're trying to do this the best as we can.
Okay.
That's why we went the electronic route. But anyone who wants to help, it just be a matter of us coming to you, because Shannon and I, we don't care. We go out to people in the evenings, whatever's convenient. We'll bring you a petition that you can just around your building, in your building, get cooperatives to sign, and we'll come and pick it up from you. This is how important we know that this is. This is absolutely not about us. We love this community. That's why we ran. We wanted to stay affordable. We know how to keep it affordable. Obviously, others don't. That's why we keep getting increases. But that's neither here nor there. But we do need the community to really just be engaged. Now, the reason that no information is being shared is because the majority passed that resolution. So as far as they're concerned, they're your directors for the next year until they're stopped. So why would they have you do a petition or speak about a petition or talk about your rights to vote? They don't care about your rights to vote. They have proven that by stopping this election and the things that they said during that ballot meeting in terms of people just don't want to vote. So
that's unfortunate. And it's not, look, when they extended it, they needed 1,300 votes and got it down to less than 500 in that 2-week period. And so that's not that people don't want to vote. Everybody has gotten back to living since the pandemic over this last year. And in a way, it makes you think that they're probably trying to take advantage of the fact that we are now so much more busy than we have been for the last few years. Because when they had to extend it last year, we were still in our emotional malaise, right? So I feel like we're just being taken advantage of, and something needs to be done. So how can people contact the two of you in order to provide support? Miss Blount has already told you all, try to come out to Garvey School tomorrow, get some petition, because you know what, even if you got a person from each and every building, it's really going to have to be you two, like, sort of leading the charge and telling us how best to help, because a lot of people are not going to be able to do it electronically. So you got to sort of be in, in communication with people as we're walking about. How can they contact you to support you and help volunteer and all of that?
We also have a Facebook page.
Yes.
And I'll put the Facebook page up so they can go on the Facebook page as well and contact. Okay. They can also, we're also going to have an email address where they can contact.
Okay.
Contact us.
Yep.
And we were saying, the same courtesy that was given for COVID, we had an air quality alert that same week, the last week of voting. We had an air quality alert. So no consideration was given for that as well. So we're putting all of that, we're giving all of that information to the cooperatives so they can be energized as well to know their rights, and when there's an air quality and the reason why they got an extended year, so these questions can be answered. But like I said, I'm going to put up the Facebook link that we currently have.
Yeah, and tomorrow I'm dropping off some petitions. I had a couple of people that reached out to me who wanted me to bring them some petitions tomorrow. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow.
Okay.
Dropping off some petitions, and again, we're all in this together.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we realized that with this diverse community, that Shannon and I wanted to make sure that we put provisions and processes in place to accommodate both. So that's why we have the paper petitions. And then those that are savvy, you just point your phone to the QR code in the Co-op City Times on our ad, or in what Shannon's going to put in our Facebook. We have a QR code there too. So we try to make it as convenient as possible, depending on everybody's computer technology abilities or not. We have the paper, and then we have electronic methods as well.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, ladies, it's been a pleasure listening to you, hearing your passion, and more than that, just your voices fighting for all of us. This is like some really crazy stuff. This reminds me of when Trump was recorded saying, "I just need how many votes did he say? 76 or whatever he needed down in Georgia to the Attorney General or the Secretary of State." I'm sorry. This is crazy to me. It makes you think that the fix is in, right? And we just can't allow it to happen like this. And so we have put the link to the petition, we put the link to the Facebook group. Um, and anyone who wants to help and volunteer, we
Yes.
really want you all to help support these ladies, not be disenfranchised, and not let us all be disenfranchised, because it's hurtful. We all work hard up here. Or if you're retired, you have worked hard and to secure your place for your retirement, because we all know that this is a naturally occurring retirement community, also known as a NORC. Those of you
Yes.
who have decided that this is where you're going to live out the rest of your days, you deserve to have the very best representation that this community can offer. I personally support these two ladies. I supported them during their campaigning, and I believe that they are the fresh start that this community needs in terms of governance. So the very best to both of you. I'm available to help in any way I can. We're going to continue to repost this video throughout this week, since they're asking for us to respond by signing the petitions on Saturday. And I really plead with everyone, take the YouTube link, take the Facebook link, and repost it on your Facebook page so that you can get more of our community to hear this. Everybody couldn't stop everything to be here tonight to hear it live. But if you help us just repost this throughout the week, that would go far as to get the word out. We thank you so much. Miss Jackie is saying my building is 2B. I'm available to sign the petition, and I will also share with people in my building. Thank you so much, Miss Jeffrey.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Ladies, last word before we close out.
Well, I would like to say that if you're the person that don't normally read the Co-op City Times, please grab this one that's in the lobby. On page 16, you'll see our full page ad where we say, "Does our vote matter?" And
Mm,
in that ad, we put the chart so that you'll see for the last 5 years these elections were extended. And some of the things that we say is what changed. What changed? So what
mhm,
changed? If you've been doing this, so what changed? The other thing is board director Darrell Johnson wrote an amazing piece in support of the election and Shana and I. If you have an opportunity to read his article as well, you'll get to see. Now he's a board director, so he's in on the meetings, and so what we are saying, what he put in his viewpoint, just substantiates what we are seeing on the outside. So I'm really happy that all of you were able to attend and allow us the opportunity to share this information with you. Shana.
Thank you. Thank you.
We just ask the community to get involved, to get angry about a process that's unfair. Just use your voice. Use your voice. This is our community. We share this community. Anything that happens in this community good, we all take responsibility for it. Anything that happens in this community that's just unjust, we have to take responsibility for that as well. So we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to make this community and keep this community affordable and keep this community safe. And this is where we live. So we just implore you guys to please get involved. Please, speak to whomever you have to speak to and let them know what's going on. And we just want changes and we want what's best for our community. We appreciate your time, your effort, and your energy. And those of you who put the time in to listen to this podcast, Dr. Jenkins, we appreciate you inviting us on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Just express what's happening in the community, what's happening with the board, and not everyone on the board, but we just want everyone involved. We want to keep our community. We don't want anybody feeling that we can't manage ourselves. We don't want anybody coming in here to take over and to tell us what we need in our community. We know what we need in our community, and we're going to get what we need in our community with the help of all shareholders. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. Happy Father's Day as well.
Awesome. Awesome. I pinned Mr. Freer's comment. You have 5 buildings being covered here. He said he will do buildings 32, 33, and 34. That's Stanley Freer. Miss Jeffrey said she will do, I think that's under here. She said she'll do 2B. Thank you. 2A and 2B. And then Kathy Blonde is saying she will do building 16B. These are huge buildings, and I thank you all for that type of support. You will get more support. You will get more support. I thank you all for your dignity in running and just speaking it as it is and doing this on behalf of the entire community. We are grateful to you and we stand with you. Thank you all for tuning in this evening. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. God bless you all, and let's get this done. Let's get this done. Building 23, Miss LDM says she's doing building 23 for Leah. Awesome, awesome. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Thank
you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
So much.